Please rise. Join us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Moines County Board of Supervisors. April 13th, 2021. I have one change to the agenda. Items D will be postponed for a week. The retirement situation came about very quickly last week, and I was trying to get it ready in time for the agenda. Fortunately, Terry Johnson, the Des Moines County Auditor, informed me that we couldn't appoint a replacement until we published an intent to appoint. So Terry's taking care of that, and it will be in the newspapers, and it is most certainly our intent to appoint Natalie as a recorder, but Terry thinks we ought to do it legally. So,
Sorry.
Wasn't it nice?
So we'll postpone it to next week, so Chad doesn't have to come in and cart me off.
Wasn't it nice when Terry's on vacation?
Look back and look at that agenda.
Anyway, so we're postponing that for a week, but it in no way affects our intent.
Are you gonna remove one of those items in personnel actions too then?
Yes, and that's,
For
I believe
Natalie's
that would
letter.
be
Natalie's letter.
2 items. Is it 1 or 2?
No, the one you'll leave on there.
Okay, well, there's only 2 items there, okay, and we will remove Natalie's item for, from the
Personnel action.
personnel actions, and that will be on next week's.
What's Natalie's last name?
Stephanie.
She doesn't have one.
Anyway, so.
Might wanna spell it.
I'm looking when you're the best.
Might wanna spell that.
I think we have a fairly enough detailed accounting of my mistakes.
You know, all the famous people go by one name.
No, just Natalie.
After this, we'll tell you what we call Bob.
I'm gonna call Leia.
That's something we can discuss during comments.
Get off the record.
All right. Are there any other changes to the agenda?
I have none.
I have none. We'll meet with department heads. Terry Johnson, Des Moines County Auditor.
Yeah, it just sounds like some interesting things happened. Last week I was gone, I enjoyed my vacation, so I'm back.
We were a little suspicious that your vacation coincided with Brian's 5-year construction and
Oh,
budget.
gosh, I'm so sorry, I missed that.
Fortunately for you,
Gary cut deep.
It's on YouTube.
I tortured Cheryl, so.
It's on YouTube. So you can.
Oh, okay, I can go back and review it.
And
That's
Cheryl's
good.
thrilled.
The word is she
Okay.
schedules all her vacations
And I think
around
Colin,
Brian's presentation.
I think Colin has notes.
Oh, okay,
I think you can probably watch the
I
recording.
can catch up then,
Yeah,
yeah.
we can quiz you for it later.
Okay.
Thank you, Terry. Colin Gerst, IT.
Just keep busy like always, nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Chris Lee, Conservation.
Good morning. Just kind of the same old for us. Parks are busy, weather's getting nice. I will note that spring turkey season has opened, so if you're out in some of our public wildlife areas, just be cognizant of potential hunters out there. Otherwise, that's really about it.
Thank you. Brian Carter, Secondary Roads. I'm surprised to see you here if turkey season's open.
Yeah, it's a stretch for me to be here today, but I'm here. I did not kill my turkey yesterday, so, yeah, so Chris and I are in the same boat. Good morning, projects are going along good, actually. Glad that we are as far as we are on the Flint Creek Bridge before we got all that rain, because the Flint sure came up fast, but as did the river, for that matter. But actually, I believe probably as of this morning, the deck's probably officially cured out, so that was poured last week. Dirt contractor got started on removing some pavement last week, but then I think it rained Wednesday and of course all weekend, so there hasn't been a whole lot of productivity right there. So that project is going. They're stripping forms off the bridge, which is a lengthy process as it is. So there's a lot of work to do, but it's nice to see a bridge sitting there. And Flint Bottom is moving along. We poured our first mainline concrete on Friday. Did, I don't know, did about 1,000 yards of concrete on Friday, so it was a full day. So last week was a good week. Anytime you see concrete get poured on projects, that's a good sign you're making good headway. So they're continuing to work. Obviously, again, they were pretty wet come Monday also with the amount of rain we got. A lot of guys were out this weekend quite a bit, not so much with flooding as you might expect, but from trees being down. When you get that saturated with that much wind, it takes the tree and the root ball and everything. So I think they had 4 different tree and road calls through the night, and starting that afternoon into the night there, Saturday night into Sunday. So couple holes in the road where that much rain makes problems show up, stuff like that. So, other than that, things are moving, and I'll be coming to you with a contract here at some point for the Pleasant Grove project. Yeah, I'm sure I'm forgetting something with everything going on, but it's been busy. I will also be bringing we had talked about the B-level road, that we have somebody, that short stretch of B-level road, we have somebody looking to upgrade possibly. I showed you that on our project tour, and we talked about it in a work session. I'll be working towards a petition on that from the sound of it. So I just want to let you know, it sounds like that's at least to a point, they want to at least start a petition and start looking at the right-of-way possibilities. So I did want to mention that to you also. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Schaefer, Des Moines County Attorney. I thought I'd get you might have a busy day ahead of you.
Actually, not too bad. I just had a trial setting conference before this, so we're getting ready for the trials for next week. It always takes longer than everyone anticipates. So we're just keeping busy, getting ready to do trials. We're moving through the list. We're reaching the point where the COVID timelines and the regular timelines are now starting to converge, and it's giving us a little bit of a bottleneck. So we're trying to work some of those things out. Other than that, just staying busy.
Thank you. Jared Lassiter, Land Use.
You have anything? We're both here today. We got a work session coming up. After the meeting, we've got one agenda item for a subdivision. Apart from that, we've had a few discussions. May have a larger subdivision in the works here in the coming months, but nothing particularly shattering. So, you have anything else?
No, just been kind of a busy couple of weeks there.
Yeah.
I was actually out on vacation and got a ton of emails and phone calls, so I just kept forwarding them to Jared while I was out. So he's been really good about responding to people and get back. Yeah, like I say, a couple other subdivisions that we're expecting to come in, and kind of seems like every week there's 1 or 2 subdivisions. It seems like, it feels like, but yeah, just keep plugging away and staying busy. So.
Thanks, Jared. Rodney Bleasner, Maintenance.
Good morning. Got an agenda item today. Also, maybe next week, I'd like to look at a work session. One of the projects we've had on the radar for the last couple of years is the alley and the back. So I'd like to talk to you guys next week about that a little bit. So talk to the waterworks, and they're willing to work with us. So we're getting a quote on that project, and maybe look at trying to get something done this year instead of next year. So, other than that, just really busy. Got lots of different projects going on. So, thank you.
And you'd probably like to see something done with the alley. We've had a couple accidents there over the last few years.
Yes, please, and thank you.
Thank you, Rodney. Natalie Steffner, Des Moines County Recorder's Office.
Good morning. Just thought I'd give you an update on the county UTV permits. We're at 271, and that is up 50 from that time a year ago. So,
What's that, four something?
271.
271.
Yep. But otherwise, just business as usual.
Thank you, Natalie. Angie Vaughn, Safety.
Good morning. This month, we're doing mental health training. We actually have invited our EAP lady to come join me. So she's giving a discussion on what our EAP is and how it works. I've got to admit, even I'm impressed. There was things that I didn't know it covered, so it was enlightening for me. I definitely think it will be for the employees, so I would suggest that everyone participates in it. We are doing something different. We've been talking about it for a while, and we've decided this is the perfect one to start. Tomorrow at City Hall, I have 2 trainings, one at 8 and one at 9. We are actually going to be recording them, and then we will be putting it out on YouTube. So everyone can, I will send a link out to everyone, even the departments that don't get a chance to participate. This way, anybody that needs the training, no matter if they're on vacation, they're out because of COVID, whatever's going on, they will have access to this link. I'm actually quite excited about it. We've got a chainsaw training coming up. I think you guys know how animated I can be. I think we can have a lot of fun with this. So we'll see how it goes tomorrow. Like I said, it's all new to me. And who knows, maybe safety companies will want to advertise their equipment and we can start bringing some money into the city.
You want to be careful about being too animated with the chainsaw.
Yeah, I'll have to watch, you know me, I tend to say what I think, so I'm gonna have to, and I'm gonna have to make sure that I warn the employees that come too, that, you know, this is recorded and this will be, you know, going possibly worldwide, so let's all behave ourselves.
Thank you. Thank you, Angie. Janelle Nally Longquist, Moines County Treasurer.
Good morning, we're just keeping busy, nothing new to report.
Thank you. Lieutenant McCune, Des Moines County Sheriff's Office.
Good morning. Sheriff Glendinning and Chief Deputy Grimshaw are both out of town at a training conference, so you get me. I just want to report that it's business as usual across the street at the Sheriff's Office, and we're currently sitting at 82 at the correctional facility and 7 out of county.
Okay. Krista Poggemiller, Public Health.
Good morning. We continue to be busy. Our 7-day rolling positivity rate has gone up a little bit. We're currently at 5% with 22 cases in the last 7 days. So that has kind of steadily increased. We were down to 1% probably 3 weeks ago. So definitely want to encourage people to go ahead and make sure that you're doing the mitigation strategies. We are continuing with vaccination clinics. Currently, we have, in our county, we have given over 29,000 first doses. And we have completed, by provider, 10,000, almost 11,000 completed series in our county. So we are continuing the clinics. We have another large clinic on Friday. It's from 8 to 5. People can go to the website and sign up. And the Des Moines County website, or we are also now accepting walk-ins. So we encourage anyone who's interested in coming just to come down to the auditorium. It's first dose, and then they'll come back in 3 weeks for a second dose. There was some information out there about they are suspending the use of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. We just received notification of that at this time. We have had very little Johnson & Johnson in our county. Just a couple hundred doses, and so that's not going to really impact our vaccine clinics. We utilize a lot of the Pfizer, but I know that's out in the media as well as, like I said, we did get the notification from the state this morning. So I think that's all I have.
So Friday at the auditorium.
Friday at the auditorium, it's we advise people to sign up. It makes it a little easier. People do go to the website, the Moines County website. But yes, walk-ins are welcome.
You walking down there or
At the auditorium.
At the auditorium Friday?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Friday.
And what's the hours?
8 to 5.
I know my granddaughter, she's under 18, she came down and got hers, they signed her up on that website. I think that's great because a lot of these young kids want this.
They do. Yeah, absolutely. The one thing is if they're between, if they're under 18, so 16 and up, are able to get the visor. If they're under 18, they do have to have a parent's consent. And we are also working, we've had some conversation with the schools, potentially do an immunization clinic, open it up at the schools as well.
That'd be great.
Thanks, Krista.
No, I'll add, I went to that clinic last week or the week before, and that is a well-oiled machine. You're just, I mean, you're in and out of there, and there's no, the longest time it takes is just for you to fill out the paper. I just, kudos to you and your team. That is, for such a big operation, man, you guys have got that down pat. Well, way to go on that.
Thank you.
I've heard nothing but compliments on that. That's really good job. Will we get by anybody online, Colin? Okay, I didn't miss anybody. Okay, correspondence.
Bob's got a
I
question.
had a question.
Is parental consent, how do they do that?
So, if their parents want to come in and just sign the consent form, otherwise they're able to pick up a consent form and have their parents sign that and bring that with them. And also on the Des Moines County website, there is a consent form, so if they want to download that, they can do that and have their parents sign it, bring the form with them.
Okay. I have no correspondence to either of you gentlemen?
I have no correspondence.
Okay, we'll proceed to discussion and vote. We have a resolution setting the time and date for the fiscal '21 budget amendment. Be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors, hereby fixes the time and place for a public hearing on the fiscal '21 budget amendment for Tuesday, May 4th, 2021 at 9 a.m. at the boardroom, the Des Moines County Courthouse. The Des Moines County Budget Director is hereby directed to publish the notice and estimated summary as required by law. This resolution shall take effect immediately.
Move approved.
Second. Terry?
Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Shane McCampbell?
Yes.
Tom Broker?
Yes. We have approval of janitorial service quotes. That would be Mr. Boyster.
Yeah, good morning. This is basically just kind of a renewal from Porter Cleaning. They did the service last year. It's for the jail, CPC office, roads, and conservation for a total of $47,016. There was no increase in the rates, and they've done a great job, so we would recommend approval of their renewal quote.
Thank you, Rodney.
I move to approve janitorial services quote.
Second?
Terry?
Shane McCampbell?
Yes.
Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Tom Broker?
Yes. We have a letter of resignation. County Recorder. Gentlemen, it has been a pleasure serving Des Moines County as treasurer, as recorder. I apologize. It has been a pleasure serving Des Moines County as recorder. I've been in this office 3 months short of 20 years and will be retiring effective April 9th due to medical issues. Sincerely, Lisa L. Hazel, Des Moines County Recorder.
Move approved.
Second.
Terry?
Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Shane McCampbell?
Yes.
Tom Broker?
Yes. We have final plat and resolution for the first addition to Twin Oaks minor subdivision.
All right, Twin Oaks, the original, probably sounds familiar, that was actually just last year that was approved. So we're dealing with some property off of Beaverdale Road, northwest of West Burlington. The Twin Oaks subdivision involves existing landscaping business that was being carved off of the neighboring properties, which was largely open space at the time, to isolate that to the commercial business. There's also been the two brothers involved with that business have each developed homes in this area, and the intent of this subdivision is to create an additional lot for another member of that same family to build a home. So it creates a lot of about just over 5.5 acres. It utilizes an existing driveway off of Beaverdale Road, which I believe dates to before this family had initially purchased that property about 10 or 15 years ago. But it's already used as the means of access for a residence on the adjoining property labeled Parcel F. And so this driveway will be shared by this new house and then the house located on Parcel F. During our review of the subdivision, it came to our attention that the way the plat was labeled only made reference to, for the easement that's shown on here, it only made reference to the current owner, subdivider of the property, and we had determined that that was initially placed only in reference to that property, basically the remainder of the parcel that's being split here once this lot 2 is split off. So we informed them that there was nothing on there particularly for Parcel F, which is the house that utilizes this driveway, because it borders Beaverdale Road, but the frontage is minimal, so this allows access to both. So we after consulting with them, they were able to determine that needed to be fixed. So the language on the plat has been updated to indicate that the owners of all property adjoining Lot 2 on the west, so that's the Parcel F as well as the original parcel this is being carved out of, those both will be able to have access through this Lot 2 on the easement that's shown on the plat. And then in addition to that, the only other significant comment we received was with regards to the health department. This is just our standard situation here where a house has yet to be built and no septic permit has been filed, so we will be including a condition on the plat that a permit for a septic system needs to be filed before construction of a house, and then it needs to be installed before the home is occupied. So with that, we would recommend approval of this subdivision with that one condition regarding the septic.
I move that we approve the final plat and resolution of addition to Twin Oaks minor subdivision.
Second.
Terry?
Shane McCampbell.
Yes.
Jim Carrey.
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. Thank you, Jared, we'll get that signed right. Okay, we have a approval of a quitclaim deed for a portion of vacated Bluff Street in the unincorporated town of Kingston.
This was something that was promised to a landowner under the previous county engineer, so that gives you an idea how long it's been. The county vacated this street years ago. The landowner came along and requested, or back during the vacation process, requested the county to do a quitclaim deed. We don't do quitclaim deeds typically. What we do is if the landowner wants a quitclaim deed, because it's not required by code, but it's pretty common for attorneys and mortgage companies to want those. So what the deal I cut with them is they have their attorney prepare a quitclaim deed, and then I run it through the Board of Supervisors. In this case, I decided to honor the offer, or whatever you want to call it, from the previous engineer to create the quitclaim deed. So that's what you have in front of you. So this is nothing new. This is cleaning up business from probably 18, 19, 20 years ago. What it is they're refinancing, and it's the mortgage company, which is, again, typical. Anyway, the road's been vacated years and years ago. It's not even a used road. I'm not sure in Kingston that was ever a used road, pretty typical in those unincorporated towns. There is a sketch of a plat. It's not, we won't record that plat. It's just something to give some perspective. We had a work session about this, probably been a month and a half ago now, I guess. But so you're aware of it. This is just kind of the culmination of the work to get it to this point. So I would request your approval of this quitclaim deed.
I move that we approve the quitclaim deed for the vacated road in Kingston.
Second.
Terry?
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes.
There's not too many roads in Kingston.
No, there aren't too many, but this is, when this comes up, it is, I'd almost go 100%, this is always in these unincorporated towns.
Yeah.
They plaid these things out back in the 1800s, and they're a full road network. There's regular roads and then there's alleys, and the problem is nobody ever paid attention to it. So there's houses, buildings, all over the place, on right of way, across alleys, and alleys that never, or even roads that never got used. And so this is the most common situation for these to come up in.
Okay, we have personnel actions for the attorney, Haley Hamilton, clerk 1, a 24-month step increase to $35,407.68.
Move to approve.
Second?
Terry.
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. We have personnel action for the correctional center. Russell Egan, assistant cook, a 3-month step increase from $8.84 an hour to $9.17 an hour.
Move to approve.
Second?
Terry.
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. We have a personnel action from the recorder's office. Renee Wellborn, part-time clerk, the full-time clerk 2. The previous rate was $14.50 an hour, and new rate is $26,829.79.
Move to approve?
Second.
Terry.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. And we have the sheriff's report of fees collected in March 2021. This report will be on file at the auditor's office and available for public review.
Actually, I have a problem with that. It says that they gave up $5,000 for R&B, and I love R&B. You know what I'm saying? I love it. But I just think that's a lot of money to spend a month on that, and I just want to bring it to the court's attention, sir.
I think we approved that probably in last year's budget. I thought R&B was part of everything. You ever heard Chad sing?
No.
I'll tell you what,
I don't think you want to.
Give him a mic. You do have one singer. Who's it?
Corey.
Corey Whitaker.
Corey's always singing.
Now he can.
I've heard Corey sing. Corey can sing. Sometimes surprisingly, so. That's enough of that. We have minutes for the regular meeting of April 6th, 2021.
Move to approve?
Second.
Terry?
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. Well, we didn't finish my category of mistakes. I need to take number 6 off there too. Well, we'll have these all cataloged by the end of the meeting. But I'm looking forward to next week, Natalie, I truly am. Any other business?
I have nothing.
None. Future agenda items?
I have none.
We have several.
Yes, 3 of them, Dan.
Yes, we do. And it'll be one of my highlights in my time at this board. Committee reports.
I have none.
I have none.
I attended sort of an ad hoc Zoom meeting with Optima and representatives of the Southeast Iowa Link. We are currently, as you've heard me discuss before, without a community mental health center, and at loggerheads with the State Mental Health and Disability Services Commission. So we're still trying to figure out how to get that approved.
You don't mind?
Public input. If anybody from the public would like to address the board, you may email the Board of Supervisors at board@dmcounty.com. That's BOARD@dmcounty.com. Or you may call 319-753-8203, extension 4. That's 319-753-8203, extension 4. We will give you 2 minutes to initiate that call or email. In the meantime, does anybody in the room have any comments? I'm sure one hand's about to go up. Maybe not. No, I thought I was looking at Bob. This has been the first meeting he hasn't had a comment. It'll become somewhat of a tradition. Anybody else have any comments or questions?
Okay, fine. Can you imagine Thomas Broker and myself
Oh, God.
sitting in classrooms together day after day? Or worse yet, being the teacher?
I was gonna say, I would probably feel more sympathy for the teacher.
This was toward the middle of the last century. It's not that funny, Bob. You weren't too far behind us.
We don't want to go there, trust me.
Tom, I think we spoke, was it last week, about that Senate file with the tax reform? I see that did pass the Senate. I haven't got an update as far as where that is or.
I have not. I've sent a couple of emails and texts, and I have not heard. Have you heard, Bob, where it stands now? No, I'm talking to Mr. Bartles.
There is a lack of unity and consensus on that bill. It could pass to the detriment in its present form of pretty much both organizations like COPID and then county boards as well. But there's also consideration of amendments, so it's uncertain. It's a period of uncertainty. Yeah.
Is that the file, Chris, related to the back bill?
Yeah, it's got backfill implications, got mental health implications.
Conservation.
Conservation tax credit implications.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty wide ranging. I think even forest reserve implications in there. It's pretty comprehensive.
I heard it didn't really affect the Forest Reserve. Whatever it says about that already was the law. It just reinforces that you can't, if you're not paying taxes on it, you can't rent it out for money. I don't have a problem with that.
No.
Okay. Receiving no public input with an aye, we're adjourned. We're adjourned. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Police, I see the police department, West Williston, sheriff department keeping you busy.
Ready?
Yeah.
Ready? Yeah, we're ready. We have a work session with Mr. Bob Bartles of Hope Haven regarding solar panels. Yes, sir.
So when Shane was elected, I met with him. And that was kind of a freewheeling conversation.
We got kicked out of Dunn Brothers.
Yes. Which started out with, here's what's going on with Hope Haven as it relates to the counties, and ended up talking about solar cells too. So,
Here, let's get that, I'll get one.
All right.
Quarter, so she knows what's going on.
so he asked that I share with y'all what we do with solar cells, more or less. And that's what I'm gonna do here. I wouldn't be asking for anything from the county board, it's just kind of information sharing and how solar cells can work. So we, with our Hopefully Your store, with this document here, we put solar cells on that property. And with all of Hope Haven's property, and there's several of them scattered across the 4 counties, anywhere that we can have solar cells installed, we already have done that. And for any new properties that we build, of which we have built a couple in the last year, we've installed solar cells on those as well. I think that for Hope Haven, we're a nonprofit, money's always an issue. We have some money for capital, but it's limited. So I tried to leverage both sides of the solar cell installation equation. There's just the savings that happen when you install solar cells, but there's also an opportunity for an investor or a company that has investors who can use tax credits. There's this huge amount of tax credits that are available when you install solar cells. So I wanted to work with a company who would have owners or investors, or the company itself, that could use the tax credits, and who would give us a lower price as a result of that. So I wanted to win both ways for Hope Haven. I wanted them to use the tax credits and give us a lower price, and I wanted to have the benefit of paying less for energy because now we have solar cells installed. There's more than one way to do this, so what I'm sharing with you is the way we did it, and our preference is to pay once, just give them money, but then have savings on our operations for literally decades afterward. So you wouldn't have to do it the way I'm showing you here. You can have still a reduction in your operating costs and pay it out over time. I know, or I perceive that government entities are gonna have some one-time money coming your way, or you may already have one-time money available. If you decided to do it and you think that it's in the best interests of the county to do it, I liked the way of I spend money once and then my operating costs go down ever after. That's a nice model. So you're either not raising taxes, or you don't have to raise taxes for a while because your costs just drop and stay dropped. So with Hopefully Yours, we installed a solar array down there. And the first number, 125,000, is the value of that solar array. We bid the array, so we had a bid, this is from memory, but it's gonna be pretty close. We had a low bid from a vendor who didn't have tax credits, or couldn't use tax credits, of maybe 110, something like that. People like to do business with us, and they're competitive. But the retail value of that installation, let's say, was 125,000. Same deal as before on the trying to save money, or use scarce money to maximize the outcome. There's something called an Endow Iowa tax credit that an organization like Hope Haven can use. And it's a 25% tax credit, state of Iowa tax credit, on donations that are given in a specific way. So we have an endowment fund at the Community Foundation of Des Moines County. We have that now. And we asked these guys, not as a requirement, but we asked all of our bidders actually, would you consider making a gift to the Community Foundation for the endowment account of Hope Haven as a part of your bid? They get, let's say they're in a 25% federal tax credit, they get that deduction. They get the Endow Iowa tax credit of 25%. So $1 given to Hope Haven in that scenario costs them 50 cents. When they do that for Hope Haven, wouldn't be necessarily for the county, but for Hope Haven, when they do that, because they've got all these extra tax credits and deductions added, the end result for us is our net is less. So I think we ended up paying $90,000 maybe for this $125,000 array. They dropped it a few thousand by using this vehicle. So this is the way in which we approach this is trying to maximize tax credits to get to an outcome that is good for everybody. But anyway, there's a federal solar tax credit. There was then, and there still continues, that's a 26% tax credit. So they use that. If the array is worth $125,000, they can get a 26% tax credit either on the 125 or on whatever amount they bid, the 90,000. I believe it's on the 125 though. For the state solar tax credit, I went back and looked since I drew this up because that can change. It's not 13% anymore, it's 11%. And it also has a $20,000 cap per site. So in this example, you get the full benefit of it. If you had a $500,000 installation at one site, you wouldn't. You would just get $20,000. They have an accelerated depreciation, which you can basically count as depreciation almost all the costs of that array in the very first year. It's 87%. So if you assume they're in a 25% tax bracket, the value of that's the $27,187. The next two numbers are how they can benefit from my Endow Iowa Community Foundation donation. So that's the $6,000 and the $6,000. So end result, if you look at what they actually are out of pocket, if they can use those tax credits, is it costs them $61,063 to install our $125,000 solar array retail value, of which they bid maybe $90,000 on. So if we were to bid this project today and offer the opportunity to more than one entity, if they use the community foundation arrangement, the cost is less for us, and they just get more tax credits. It makes it more likely we're gonna do it. They own it for the first 5 years. It has to be that way by the federal requirements, but we buy it at the end of that 5 years for $1. Because we've in effect paid our lease payments up front for those 5 years. And that's how Hope Haven does solar cells. If you applied it to the city, if you've got capital to put in, the building that our office is in now has solar cells on it, has for several years. I approach things from, that's what it said on paper, but I'd like to see it in real life. So I checked our August bill about a year after we installed installed solar cells on that building. That building is one of the first places we put them, to see if in fact the savings were there. It was an August bill, so if you're gonna have maximum effect for sun-based energy, it's gonna be in the summer. In that August bill, our electric bill the previous year was $500 for a 5,000 square foot building that gets a lot of use. The year I looked at it, it was $50. So that's probably a maximal amount. But they'll, if you choose to do this, they'll give you a bid and says, here's your anticipated savings from solar. And it's not gonna be far off. There's a formula for figuring it out.
It's pretty interesting.
Easy terms, no balloon payments.
And I've seen those, and I did one of those, and there's one cost that's not included in there. It was last, I've seen anywhere from 20 to 30, but average about 25 years of your useful life, and they get a little less efficient each year.
That's exactly right.
But it costs more to recycle them than it does to manufacture them.
Okay,
And whoever, after 5 years, you own those.
that's
And
true.
whoever owns that property owns those panels.
Yes.
So they started putting them in a lot, you know, all across the country in the early 2000s. So I think this was, you know, it's about to become a bigger problem in a few years. But what they're doing now is people can't afford to recycle, but they don't want to. So they end up in landfills.
Yeah.
Or they end up in county ditches.
Yeah.
And they have cadmium and lead in them.
Okay.
That leaches into the groundwater.
Right, poisons the earth.
And so to get around that, some recyclers, what they do is they export them to undeveloped countries. And they end up in landfills there into their groundwater.
Yeah.
Or that's where poor people and their children go to salvage
Right.
metal and glass and stuff. But it's it's a deal once they, and the owner, and it's one thing if, maybe someday the federal government will say, we're gonna subsidize that too. But they don't have anything like that today. So whoever owns those, when they go out when they wear out, and like I said, they get a little less. So anyway, and it would be different for the county, but they make me nervous, anything I've read about the recycling costs. And I certainly would, not that the county would do it, I certainly don't look forward to Brian Carter having to go out into the ditches, you know, and having that be out there. And so anyway, but I never, and I've read that. Matter of fact, one of them I read, they were talking how much it adds to the value of your house. They said they've done a study and it adds 4.1% to the value of a home.
I did not know that.
And that might be when it's new,
Yeah.
but especially as people realize it's years, I suspect as that gets older,
Yeah.
you know, and it gets closer to the end of its useful life, that will have a negative effect on a home value. And so I don't know, and this sounds like a good deal for Hope Haven, and you guys will do the right thing.
Yeah.
I know
We
that,
will.
and are a little different as a nonprofit opposed to a government entity. But that's interesting, but I'm that last cost scares the hell out of me.
Yep. I would mention that, you know, none of those solar installation companies mentioned this. Tom.
No, I know they don't.
Yeah, so
And I've been to websites where, you know, and it'll actually calculate what you want on your house.
Yeah.
And, you know, that it'll say, well, your house goes up so much, and if, matter of fact, there was one, shows you a picture of your roof, you know,
Yeah.
just give them your address and say, well, this is gonna save you X number of dollars, it'll cost X number of dollars, and you get a payback in so many years. And, I've never seen that, and I was going through there, then there's places in there, different scientific magazines, when they'll go through there, it'll say, you know, that this is good, this isn't so good, and then, they said this isn't a big problem now because nobody's talking about it, because most of them aren't 25 years old yet. But when they get to be 25 years old, then it'll become a deal.
So in my previous employment, Tom, I worked for an organization like Hope Haven that had a really extensive recycling operation, major. And they were doing televisions, which have lead in the glass and computer monitors and so on. And there's a way to handle that stuff. It's got lead, it's a dangerous material, but you can handle this stuff safely if you're careful. And when I hear you mention that, of course, I'm kind of incorrigible on the business opportunity side. You know, you could develop a recycling business.
There are recycling businesses, there are solar recycling businesses, but apparently it's not cheap. And some of them, I were saying something like that, say, yeah, we'll recycle it, load it in the truck, take it away, and it ends on a ship headed for the Middle East or South America or Africa or, you know, or some underdeveloped country. And there they sell it as used solar panels, which all they're interested in is cheap. They'll have a solar panel installation, somebody does, or they try to recycle it with their bare hands or however, but no, it can be recycled, but it's an expensive process.
So if the county were to do it, being the good fiscal stewards that I know you to be, you'd want to figure the cost of that into it. So you could set aside the money.
Yeah, but that's, I've always, recently noticed that whenever they discuss that, and I understand how that goes, but, that's not the first thing you run across.
That's the first time I've heard it, like I say. Yeah, but it makes sense.
It's an
issue.
It's a lot of silicone, and the silicone isn't a deal, but evidently cadmium is particularly bad, and lead is bad.
Yeah.
And they both leach into groundwater.
Yep.
And, I don't know, so, but I can see where it works for you guys.
Bob, I got a quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
Kind of interesting, but my wife and I have actually looked at this recently and got some quotes for our home. But in terms of like maintaining it, is there much you guys have to do to maintain those? You know, as the years go on, you gotta like clean it or do any kind of maintenance really to keep it premium?
We've had it on properties for years now. I'm not sure how many, but I'm gonna say more than 5. There's never been a maintenance, maybe one maintenance issue across, say, a dozen properties once. And these guys fixed it. You know, it was in that first 5 years, they still have an obligation there. They just fixed it, and that was the end of it. Yeah.
But in terms of like yearly maintenance, do they come out and look at that or maintain it? No?
There's the panels, and then there's something called an inverter. And an inverter apparently has a lifespan of maybe 12 years. So when we were looking at a different proposal where we didn't just pay it all up front, we looked at it in terms of, well, we'll pay for this within that 12-year period while those inverters have a guarantee on them or a warranty on them. Because once that's expired or they expire, we would need to be buying new ones. So, but it hasn't been 12 years since we installed the first ones.
You don't know anybody that's gone through the life cycle of this program yet?
I don't.
But it's new enough, like I said, they last for anywhere from 20 to 30 years, but average, most people say 25 years.
Yeah.
And so it was in the early 2000s when it really became a thing, so they've had some before that. And this is some of the problems they're turning up some of those places in the third world.
That's interesting.
Countries.
That is interesting, I had never heard that either. I'm still a fan of solar. I think anything handled responsibly. But yeah, that's kind of a pickle after that time frame. You know, what do people do to get over that hump? You know what I'm saying? I mean,
I do.
I'd be curious to find out somebody that's already kind of gone through a life cycle and what the process was. I would be curious to hear about that.
I have a quick question too. On the places that you have them, are they ground installations, roof
Rodney,
installations? If they
and I
are-
apologize, could you pull your mask on?
Are they ground installations or roof installations? And if they are roof, if they're shingled or flat roof or metal roof?
It could be either. All of ours are roof installations, except one we are installing now with a fine old building in Mount Pleasant, which we couldn't determine the weight-bearing capacity of the beams of the roof. No one knew. So in that case, we're just putting it on the ground. The outcome's the same, but we put them on roofs so far. I don't know that we put them on a metal roof. I think it's all been shingles, but or rubber, you know. But I don't know of any, I haven't heard of any reason that the type of roof makes a difference. And if you need to replace the roof, apparently you can do that and just put the panels back on, but we've never had to do that so far.
They aren't easily damaged, I mean, like a hailstorm or something like that, are they? I'm assuming, I don't think I've ever heard that they were.
That's correct, they aren't easily damaged, but they could be damaged, and I believe we have insurance to protect us on that. You know, just part of our property and liability, that's something that's.
They look like glass, and the first thing you think is, as soon as they have a hailstorm, it's gonna look like those greenhouses used to look like. I remember seeing, what was it, out at the end of Sunnyside, there used to be a greenhouse out there. I remember driving by that after a hailstorm or two over the years.
Yep.
Then with some greenhouse.
Oh, it was ugly. And these don't, and I've seen them at night, and I knew it couldn't be that way, but I was just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still curious about too, I wonder what the charges are. I would like to, you know, I wonder what the charges are for somebody that has had to have some work done and how big of a pain in the butt that is. Because, you know, they can put them up, they can take them down, but everything comes with a cost. How much extra are they skimming, you know, skimming off the top for something like that, but,
It really saves us thousands of bucks. So, like I said at the start, I'm not a stakeholder, whatever y'all do, other than being a taxpayer or whatever, but if there's a bunch of money coming your way, or if you see it as a good viable proposition, not discounting what you're saying with cadmium lead, because that's a serious deal. It's a way to reduce your costs without harming anyone. Everybody wins except the utility company. So.
Bondholders.
Pardon?
U.S. bondholders, when interest rates pop up.
Well, there is that.
You know,
We're taxpayers at both levels.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime they get anything new, there's always a savings to it. I can't say too much about solar panels or the wind thing, but my 25 years in the HVAC business, you know, groundwater heat pump. Everybody pushed groundwater heat pump.
I remember that.
And a lot of them have been replaced now. They find out that, you know, the selling thing on it, they give you a rebate back on this to get this put in and everything. And the same equipment pushes the air and the cooling that it does on a regular gas and electric unit.
Okay.
You know, so 25 years is max, you know, won't last. You don't drive a car 25 years, do you?
Right.
But these people don't want to put a new furnace in their house after 25 years. And they do save money. You're 98% efficient. You put that secondary heat exchanger in there to recap everything.
Right.
And it's the same thing what you're talking about, but when you get ready to repair it, there's no repair to them.
Right.
You gotta go out and buy new.
Right.
But we don't have to worry about, you know, recycling or anything like that, because most of it's stainless steel. But there's always savings to be made, but I'm not too much into solar. I like wind myself.
I like both. Yeah. My wife used to work as a leasing agent for a wind power company. And they really, it's very interesting.
well, I think these are interesting numbers. I still, obviously, not enough information, but how long have you guys had your panels up?
I would say more than 5 years, 6 years.
So you just got into it?
Yeah.
Bob, can I ask which company you guys went through?
We have been going with a company called CV Solar, which is among the biggest in the state, apparently, doing this kind of thing. And what makes them keep winning the bids, we don't bid every one now, but when we do bid them, our last ones we did bid, their bids are always lower because they can use the tax credits so far. Now, if any of our local solar companies like Precision Energy, if they can use tax credits now, you know, I would definitely, if y'all did decide to do this, I would encourage bidding. Well, you would do it anyway, there's a bidding process, but anyway, CV Solar's done a good job. When they've encountered problems, they just fix them, they don't try to get us to pay for it. So. it's
Isn't that
good.
Moorfield Electric, aren't they, they're putting a lot of that in? Moorfield
Yeah.
Electric?
We're actually looking at, we're gonna be installing a solar panel array in our office building, and we did a bid with 3 different companies, and Moorfield, I believe, is the company that we're gonna be working with.
Yeah.
They did all the work with SCC, I believe, and all.
What made
all
you
stuff
guys
they've
do,
done.
what made you guys decide to make that move?
We've been talking about it for years. I think one of our concerns is kind of the same thing. It's the long-term maintenance of the solar panels and just some of the concerns there. And what are those? Because nobody's had them for more than 5-6 years that we really talked to. So what's that long-term cost? What do you do when you dispose of them? But from the other side, it seems to be clear that most people say that the savings has been so much that it's been well worth making the switch. So, but yeah, we just had, I think just like everybody else, you see rising costs of electricity, and so it's a way. It has a built-in increase in what your per kilowatt expense is, and it's a little more predictable than what you might see from the utility companies, where you might get no raise for a couple of years, but then you get hit with a big 10 or 15% raise in the future. So you know ahead of time what those raises are going to be each year. It's a small percentage, so it just gives you a little more predictability on what your costs are going to be. I don't know if it's the right answer or not. I mean, there's definitely concerns there, what you do with them long term and what the maintenance is. So.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's the right answer or not, but we're hopeful that it saves us some money, and at least in the near term, like you said, you don't know some of those long-term costs, but.
And I don't think Shane was here, so several years ago, we got a quote for doing the jail and putting a ground array out at the jail. And I was thinking it was right around $500,000 that would cover all of that. And so there's so
Well,
much.
back up, you said it would have covered all of that.
Would have covered basically like kilowatt that would be able to cover the jail. So like at a certain point, once you get your payoff back.
And you had no bill, essentially.
Yeah, you basically would almost maybe not even have a bill. But there's so many variables in it, obviously, the sun, the payback, you know, whether you put it on the ground, you're putting it on the roof, what the maintenance is. I was thinking it was like a 13 to 15 year payback. So if you have a 13, 15 year payback cost, and then say you only get 25 years out of that solar panel, say you get a good 10 years out of it, what's that saving cost? Then what's your recycle fees? What kind of maintenance did you have to do in between there, the cost of that? I mean, there's just a lot of unknowns as far as cost-wise.
That's why we didn't get too aggressive with the city, because
The farther out that payment, the
Yeah.
farther away that payment is, the more tenuous that payback is, the more tenuous
it makes
it
it a
is.
little nervous.
And I didn't see the sheet that Bob provided, but it sounded like you're paying the whole thing up
You need-
front, essentially, so you see
Yeah.
the savings right away that way, and that's the
Yeah.
advantage there.
Yeah,
Where if you're paying the lease fee for 10 years, you still see a savings early, but it's a lot smaller.
All comes down to
It's,
which
but
one.
once you become the owner, that's when you start to see the pay. So if you do get the whole thing paid up front, that's where you'll see the savings right away.
Rodney, when you brought that in to us, I remember you brought that in, and there was rebates and all that stuff on the time, but they wouldn't give it to a city or a
Yeah,
county.
government, tax entities,
Yeah.
so.
tax
That was
credits.
different.
Tax
That was the
credits,
other
couldn't
thing,
get
there's so many, I'm not gonna say loopholes is a bad word, but there's
Yeah.
so many different kind of angles and directions to go as far as, you know, investors and PPA agreements, and people really signed in, you know, when it first started coming out, people were signing into these PPA agreements with investors, you know, a 20-year deal. So the investors would pay for it up front, and then they would basically charge back to you. Say if you're paying 15 cents a kilowatt, they may charge you like 5 or whatever it works out to be the term of their agreement, and then you buy it at the end of that agreement. Well, costs have lowered, so a lot of that's changed. They're still doing some of that, but yeah, there's just a lot of different scenarios. Federal tax credits, like I say, the 26%, and then 11 through the state, and different things like that. Some of the governmental agencies can't necessarily take advantage of some of those tax credits. Also, like I say, with property values, I think they were given maybe like a 5-year, at one time they were doing like a 5-year forgiveness or whatever, but they basically wouldn't charge you for that additional home value, but after that 5 years it would, if it increased value to your home. So there's just lots of different things to it. But yeah, I mean, it definitely, numbers look great, and it definitely saves you some money, but if you look at, which is so hard to tell because it's still yet fairly new, but if you look like a 40-year, you know, if we had a 30, 40-year window from beginning to maybe end to see, you know, what's your true, you know, like on a $500,000 project, what your true cost savings between, you know, your startup, your maintenance. If you had part of it on your roof, let's say you had 10 years, 15 years on the roof, you put this up, and then 5, 10 years later, you got to put a new roof on, then you have to pay that company to remove all those off your roof to put a new roof on. I mean, there's an added cost to that as well. So what all those variables are, it's just, there's really a lot of different scenarios and things to really consider to look at. A lot of unknowns that it's really hard to tell.
If y'all had any interest, if you did, you could take that real life example and give the 2 or 3 companies an opportunity to bid it. Rates have gone up. Materials costs, I don't know. The one entity that we work with, if it's a $500,000 project, if these guys gave you a copy of the document that I gave them, probably $400,000 is what these guys would bid. If it was a retail value, $500,000 project, I'm not their representative, hear me on that, truly I'm not. But they'd probably bid 400 grand. If you have the one-time money coming in, which I'm almost certain the county will, and you have some, but this is something you could use it for. If you took 400.
We're hopeful the Treasury Department will tell us someday what we can use it for.
I know, you know, I feel your pain. If you take the $400,000, which I'm almost certain, considering who's running the administration, and some of the money somewhere, there'll be an opportunity to pay for a solar array. If you take that one-time money and spend your 400 grand, it's all savings. The way these guys have bid it for us, for what it's worth here, it's never been, we're gonna cover all your costs. They maximize the break from the utility company. So it's not a chance that I still owed $50 on my $500 bill. They don't try to cover all the costs. They try to maximize the outcome based on how the utility company figures how they pay you, or how they, how they bill you, I mean to say. So that'd be a great example. It's a ground array. Don't have to worry about roofs. You know what it looked like the first time you did it. You could try the local vendors, and I don't know if the Moorfeld, I've never worked with them. I don't know if they've got the tax credits or not. There's Precision Energy. These guys that I know do have the credits. You can just see what it tells you. No harm, other than effort expended.
I can see, if I put them on, it's I'd have my kids 20, 25 years from now, them things go bad, they'd have to get them recycled, then they'd have to put new ones on. So I don't think they figure that into your expense either.
The recycling is, like I say, no one's ever brought that up, Tom, I don't know why. So-
That makes me a little suspicious of who you're talking to, because I don't think it's a secret.
Yeah. So, for ourselves, now that I'm aware of it, but then for
Yeah,
y'all as well.
and I, like I said, I, in the past, when Rodney was looking at that, and I didn't read anything about it then anyway, and I knew you were coming, I read, and I had, maybe about a year ago, I was looking for something, and I saw all sorts of online, you know, you plug in your numbers,
Yeah.
and it tells you how much you're gonna save, and how long it'll take you to save that, and it's not hard to find those calculators and stuff. But I never saw that addressed in any of those calculators, and apparently it's a real cost.
Yeah.
I got another quick question on any of your arrays that you have. Do any of those overproduce, and are you able to sell back energy
You
to?
are, yeah,
to-
at a fraction of the value. It's, so, the arrangement isn't set up to harm the interests of the energy company in any way, yeah.
Yeah, I would assume most of them are probably designed to kind of cover what you got, but obviously on good sunny days and not using much, you're kind of overproducing.
Right.
I just didn't know if you were getting any kind of.
We do. But it's, if they charge us 13 cents, we get 2, you know.
So what you're paying the KW?
Huh?
13 cents KW?
I'm thinking that, at least in one of our areas, you know, Mount Pleasant has a different company. But in at least one of our areas, we're being, or we were, last time I looked at it.
I think I checked, okay, a year ago or something like that, I remember looking, I'm thinking there's a season, there's a different charge for each season, or an upcharge or a downcharge or something like that. And I was thinking, for our up and home, it ranged from like 13 or 14 cents up to 18 cents, something like that, for, dependent on the season, I don't remember. After I got into it, very far, it's not seeing the upcharge or downcharge or second upcharge or whatever it was, I threw up my hands aside, I wasn't that interested.
Yeah. That's one thing about them, they're, if it's hot and it's sunny, they're gonna be smoothing out that 18 cent, because that's when they're producing too, so you're
Yeah.
using less energy.
When we figured air conditioning there, you know, on the electric, for this area, if your compressor runs, we took total time, the average of what a compressor runs on air conditioner is 635 hours.
Is that right?
In a cooling season, that's June, you know, the end of May, June, July, August, first part of September. Figured that, and that came from ISU and then Alliant too, you know, we get a hold of them. So you figure that 635 hours, that's only about 3 months running time if it ran total, you know, on them hours.
Yeah.
And so we did a lot of figuring on that, and for electric, and that's, I'll tell you what, it's, these new air conditioners, they got 18 series, you know, it puts it in that cost, it brings that down.
Good deal.
I'm not a firm believer in solar panels.
Of course, in the Broker household, the decision is what to set the thermostat at is made above my pay grade. Someone says they're hot or cold, doesn't matter if I'm hot or cold.
There's a reason that you managed to remain.
Remain member of the Broker household, yeah, that's true.
Married men in the house say, yeah.
I think every guy in here is.
And
Batman nodded for all.
if you leave your fan running in the wintertime,
I'm outnumbered.
turn it on all the time.
Yep, that's right.
It takes less energy to run that.
I
At
wanna
day's time,
say
if you
that
run it
that
full
was not a
time,
gender-based.
Whatever.
Where you're using your juices, when that capacitor kicks that motor in, takes more juice than it does to run.
I think we might leave ours run all full time.
if you leave it run full-time, your electric bill's gonna go down.
It's my actual life experience comments, so.
Yeah, that's funny how it's so many of our actual life experiences.
All right, y'all.
Well, does anybody else have any questions? Bob, we really appreciate you coming
Yeah,
and
thanks.
gave us some interesting discussion items here. That's,
You're welcome.
Appreciate it, Bob.
All right.
Amen to that, thanks, Bob.
You're
And I'm
welcome.
still not against solar, but I am nervous about it.
Well,
I run onto one of your workers, I guess she recognized me, it was out at Perkins,
yes.
and she seen me come in, the wife and I went in, and she said, I hope we have a party this year because I'm up for an award.
There we go.
I hope you have a party too.
We're intending to have that party.
Good.
You know, it's probably one of the most rewarding things you get when you're sitting here is to get to go there and see how happy these people really
That's
are.
right.
I always enjoy that.
That placing people into jobs is
Yeah.
so meaningful.
Yeah.
It really is. And we just keep doing it. There's a couple hundred people right now that are placed by Hope Haven, so.
That's, what few years I've been around the mental health and disability services, everybody, you know, you talk to, it's so important. A job, you know,
Yeah.
feeling of self-worth, structure, you
Yes.
know, those things, you know,
Yes.
it matters less what you do
Yeah.
than having a job and saying,
That's right.
this is what I do, and I have to be there at 8 o'clock or
Yep.
4:30 or whenever it is, and, yep, no, that's.
Having something to do keeps us old farts alive.
Yes, yes.
All right.
Thank you, Bob.
See you,
for
Bob,
everything.
thank you.
Bob, continue to have something to do. Stay alive, my friend.
I intend to, by God.
Only the good die young. Bob will be with us forever.
I'll be cracking those solar cells 25 years.
I didn't say that, Bob, I just laughed at it.
Okay, you wanna end that one?
Yep,
Do,
I ended that one.
We ready for,
Yes, sir.
okay, let's we have a work session with the SERPAS. What would that be? Southeast Iowa Regional Planning. For changes to the zoning commission procedure.
Real quick story here. Shane, if you don't notice, he keeps calling me Batman.
Shane does?
I've been
Yes.
calling you Batman for years.
And
What
I don't know
talking
if you
about?
remember, I don't know if you remember this, so the story behind this is I was out just minding my own business, mowing my lawn on a beautiful day. I happened to be wearing a shirt with Batman symbol on it.
That's better
And
than
this
tights
guy,
and cape.
this guy comes speeding down some street.
I don't know about
I know you were going too fast. And he honks his horn, and goes, Batman! And ever since,
That's true.
and ever since, I'm Batman.
I would never let him know my address.
Well, he didn't want me to know, I just got found out.
Oh!
I have since moved because of that. Yeah.
Thanks, Batman.
Just so you know, I had to tell that story. I appreciate it though. It's a fond memory.
I've had several
You know?
people say, why do you call him Batman? I've had to let them know.
It's nicer than what I call him.
Tell you
Yeah,
my
you don't
t-
want to know what Brian called me.
My t-shirt story.
My t-shirt story. All right.
We graduated from high school in '61.
You and Zach?
No. Anyway, I got this t-shirt that says class of '61. Our new neighbors moved in a couple of years ago and I was out mowing the yard and I had that shirt on. And she come back and she said, "You was born in '61? I said, "No." She said, "Well, you're a class of '61. I said, "That's my high school."
You were born in '61.
Well, she said, "I thought she looked a little older, kind of that gray hair." She took it all away from me right then.
She took it all away.
People are hard.
All right.
Okay.
I digress. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so, why don't you guys introduce yourself for the record?
Sure. Zach James, Assistant Director, Southeast Iowa Planning Commission, and then Land Use Administrator for Des Moines County.
Jared Lassiter, Southeast Iowa Regional Planning Commission, and Des Moines County Assistant Land Use Administrator.
Thank you, gentlemen. The floor is yours.
Yeah, well, we came, maybe 2 months ago, and did a little work session and talked to you guys about possibly changing the membership to the zoning commission from 7 members to 5, and we gave a whole list of reasons why we would, we're looking into doing that, and I think you seem to be favorable with that idea. Since then, Terry wanted to look into the records and kind of see what, if anything, had been adopted previously to maybe set some of those parameters on membership and quorum and whatever it may be. So she did find 2 resolutions that we didn't know of that she sent to us, so it gave us some good background and what the parameters were, what was set, and I think that's one of the resolutions. Actually, he probably gave you both resolutions.
Yeah, the original resolution was from 1998. That was when the zoning commission was originally established. And there was a 2006 amendment changing one of the paragraphs of that original amendment, or the original resolution from 98. So those go together.
So we did get those resolutions, then we did have a zoning commission meeting to review our ordinance updates, and we also just brought this to them just to get some of their thoughts and opinions. I don't know if they really had an issue with it one way or the other. They kind of suggest maybe leaving it open where it could be 5 to 7 members. I don't know if that's really, I don't know if, I guess technically you can do that or not. I guess we feel it's probably just better just to keep it at 5 just so it's a set amount, but I guess we're open to doing it either way.
But this sorry to interrupt you, but this started with you guys having problems filling those 7 spots.
Yes. Well, that's one of the issues, yeah, but there was some other reasons as well, but that was one of the primary issues.
Also, that everybody doesn't show up every meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the other things we did discuss at the Planning and Zoning Commission, related to not everybody showing up, had to do with quorum.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the resolution, or is it quorum? I guess it's quorum, so you have to have at least 4 to have a quorum, but then it was for an affirmative approval of anything, even if you only had 4 there, all 4 have to vote for it. It's not a majority of the members that are there, it's still a full majority of the zoning commission has to vote for something, which I don't think we really agree with. I think the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission didn't really agree with that. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
It sounded like that was a sticking point of the previous county attorney,
Yeah.
that it had to be that way for whatever reason.
So that was one of the suggestions that the Planning and Zoning Commission would like to amend as well, is adjusting that, what makes not a quorum, but an affirmative vote. And one of the reasons was Dick Keith particularly said there were many meetings where they would have just the quorum there, 4 people, and sometimes it might be a subdivision or something that he was actually directly involved in as an engineer. And so he felt like he should abstain, but he would vote for it just because he felt like
He had to
make the affirmative vote. And he didn't really feel comfortable with that. So that was one thing we did talk about, and that I think we would like to address as well, but.
I should note that part of the issue we're looking at here, because there are several issues we had discovered with this original 1998 resolution. One of which was the stipulation that there 6 members shall be within the county but outside a city, and 1 shall be from an incorporated area, which has already been nullified by the update in state code last year, which specifically prohibits anyone from a city from serving on a county zoning board. But amongst that was this thing about the where it says actions on subdivision plats and zoning maps and text amendments shall require a majority vote of the entire commission membership, which is what Zach was addressing there. However, we did notice that there was a 2013 amendment to the bylaws, the rules of procedure of the commission, where they amended their own bylaws so that it would allow a majority of those members present, at the majority of the quorum present at the meeting, which
Contradicts.
which the issue there becomes, okay, so we have one amendment to this 1998 resolution that was done in 2006 that went through the board. Well, and then 6 years later, another one goes through, but then that was just the zoning commission making that decision. Evidently, it had gotten lost on them by the time that, well, should this go through the board first? Because that was part of the original enabling resolution that created the board. And so that gets to the whole issue we're presenting here, that, well, if we're gonna amend all this, we're gonna have to have several changes to this thing. So it just gets to the whole point of what do we want that needs to have to go through the board to make it true, and what is something that, things that should just be up to the commission from here on out to amend regarding their own procedures, because evidently there was that at that time, it was not realized that, well, this should probably go through the board first, because it's part of the original resolution, so. Do you have any other thoughts on that, or?
No, I was just gonna say, I think, I guess what we'd like to do, and they, I guess hear from you about is, so we had the original resolutions in there, and where we kind of highlighted some of the issues and the challenges. Jared started to put together a resolution that would be an amendment to the original one.
Specifically regarding the number of zoning commission members.
And it highlights really 3 items, if I remember right: the number of zoning commission members, the issue about the quorum and the majority vote, and the 3rd item has to do with public hearing notice timelines. Just because what we currently say in that resolution, I think, is 7 to, I guess I have it here.
No less than 7, no more than 20.
No, but current state code says no less than 4 and no more than 20, so.
You guys need us for the 5, or you need us for the 5 and the majority, and the quorum? Are you saying,
So,
because?
so I guess the question is, well, there's 2 questions. Number 1, we have a resolution here that makes an amendment to the original one, but we could do that, or we have another thought of just creating a brand new resolution that outlines certain parameters for the zoning commission, and then just kind of nullifies any of the historical ones. So you just work off this newer one. I think that simplifies it. But then I think the other question Jared was getting at is,
I like that idea.
are there items in there that we should not include in a resolution that we should just allow the zoning commission to include in their bylaws, so that if they wanted to amend something in their bylaws, they don't have to come back to you to make that decision?
Would that be something that the county attorney could address?
And I suppose we haven't talked to Lisa, so maybe that's what.
You know, that you can, the zoning commission can adopt or change its own bylaws in such a fashion.
And I think they can do that today, but the question is, there's certain things that are in that initial resolution that they couldn't change in their bylaws, so it's.
Unless they came through that.
Unless they came through you, so the question is.
Although that's already clearly been violated once when they
Right.
didn't realize that was
So
a
I guess
thing that's
the
in
question is,
here.
what would you, do you have any guidance or direction, or do you
I guess,
talk to
I'm more
Lisa?
comfortable with, like Jim said.
I like the idea of a
I
brand new
like-
resolution just to clean it up, but then some of what's in it, I guess maybe that's where we talk to Lisa.
And you could always reference that this replaces resolution,
Right,
whatever, from 1998 and 2006.
That's my preference. When Jared and I talked about it last week, that was my thought too, so.
That's why I hate.
Have you talked to
legislation,
any of the
because
other
they say
counties about their
change
zoning
this
ordinance, about how they address some of that stuff, or
The-
any
Like
other
the
county?
quorum
Any
and
other
the-
county, yeah, about the quorum and stuff.
I haven't directly, I think, you may have talked to Joe over in Henry County.
think I
but-
did.
No, okay, but yeah, we can talk to a couple of ones.
Yeah, just-
I think.
I had talked to him about the number of members.
Okay, maybe that's what you talked to him about.
I think the consensus of the board, we'd like to see just a new resolution.
Okay, I think, to me, that's a little bit cleaner and just nullifies all the stuff, we start fresh, but we can maybe talk to Lisa
Reach
about
out to the
some of
county
the,
attorney on the, you know,
The specifics of the detail.
wording of some of the items.
I like the idea that 5 members, tell you what, 5 members are gonna get along a lot better than 7. I don't care what they say. It's kinda like a 3-member supervisor board gets along better than a 5-member like Lee County's got. You know, and I like the vote. If they're there, they're the ones that's voting on it. You know, if
And
you
you
only
guys-
have 3 people
Oh, I
there.
agree.
Huh?
I agree.
And you guys have your rules, I mean, attendance rules, stuff like that. Somebody's not showing up enough, you guys can give them the boot and all that good stuff?
I think that's in the bylaws somewhere, if they're not there a
I'm
certain
sure you
number
guys
of
got
times
it.
or
You
something.
guys got it.
You gotta be
We don't
careful.
normally do that.
You gotta be careful about moving people when you can't find
But
them.
I think there's rules in the bylaws for stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, that's the question is, what then makes sense for you guys to adopt to create that commission and make sure it's there, but
I didn't
what
realize
don't
that.
we wanna put in there so that if they need to change something, they have to come back to you every time? What can they keep in there where they can just amend their own rules? So I think that's the balance, and we can talk to Lisa about that maybe.
Part of the issue here is that the state code doesn't stipulate a lot of this stuff direct. Well, there's some, like that recent change that about whether they could live within a city, but there's a lot more specifics with regards to the Board of Adjustment that is not flexible when it comes to local governments when establishing that organization. But for the commission, it's a lot more open-ended, where there really isn't a lot of top-down limit as in how many members you need to have. And I think it gets to the fact that the Board of Adjustment is more of a quasi-judicial entity, that there's more serious ramifications to a decision made by that board, whereas the Planning Commission is more of an advisory group that makes recommendations to the Board of Supervisors. So that on one hand, that is an advantage, that there's more flexibility to the local governments about how many members and the general procedure, but at the same time, it gets to the issue of if they do want to make a change in the future, whose responsibility is that? Is that the Board of Supervisors, or can they make their own decisions going forward about how they conduct business?
That's where I bring in the county attorney to discuss some of what should be, go through the Board of Supervisors and what doesn't necessarily have to.
Yep. Well, we will, we'll look at creating a new resolution, we'll probably draft something and create a kind of a list of questions, and we'll talk to Lisa and see if they can give us some guidance.
You do anything about all these multi-syllable words?
Which ones?
The multi-syllable words. We're supervisors, 1 or 2 syllables works best for us. I've sat here too long.
Real quick, on
Yeah.
the land use side of things
Yes.
and stuff, you guys are working on that update. This came to mind.
Yeah, it's coming, it's getting very close. We're meeting at the end of the week, and hopefully be wrapping up soon and sending it to Lisa, but if you have something else.
Well, we had talked about wind and solar and stuff,
Yes.
and I did reach out through the state and got very little back as far as formal policies for, but I will tell you, I've just,
Oh, that's the resolution.
probably not, it's probably a bad pun to say caught wind, but caught wind of from what I can tell, very top secret at this point at least, solar project, starting possibly trying to get off the ground in Des Moines County. And if it's anything like the one that happened up by Wapello, we're talking 400 or 500 acres, 800
They're
acres.
talking about another one up in Louisa County too.
Well, there's one where they're trying to buy ground as we speak. And I just found out about it last night. And where I'm going with this is, I don't know.
400 to 500 acres they're trying to buy?
Or more. And they buy easement, they don't buy the ground. But where I'm going with this is that it does, particularly during the construction. After that, obviously, but for that 2, 3, 4 years, they wear roads out. You'll have problems with them on roads, you'll have problems, all sorts of stuff. So it caught my interest. I didn't really have anything good to add back when we talked about reaching out for stuff, but I think we need to look at that a little bit again and see. I don't know if we can have something in there, even just a generic terminology saying, must negotiate with county about, I don't know if it's even possible, because we're not a zoned county. So,
That's the issue,
one of
is
the
where is this located? Because if it's in the 2-mile area, then we could address
I
it
know
that
where
way.
it's at, Jared, and it's not a zone.
Okay,
I was gonna
right.
say,
So it almost needs to be a solar
I'm not-
energy
I'm not new to it,
ordinance
so.
itself.
So I think.
I'm not sure that we wanna do anything or the board wants to do anything, but if one of those pops up, it can be a major deal as far as the impact to the roads. Right, and I'm not saying anything plus or minus about zoning, it's just, I don't know if we can, but if we can, that's probably a question for an attorney. I think we should at least create generic language. I really don't wish to create something detailed, because you can't ever predict every scenario. But when a construction site like that picks up and that traffic comes in, it changes people's lives.
I've seen
on
the
their
equipment
roads.
they use on some of those wind stuff now, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, and
Huge
So,
equipment they use on
so
those.
does it need to be like a solar/wind farm?
well, I mean, and there are counties out there with solar stuff because solar people or wind people actually have to rebuild roads because they can't get their equipment in. I don't think solar has the same issue as that. I just wanted to bring it to the forefront because we really didn't find a lot, at least I didn't find a lot on the solar side of things. But
Probably less on solar than there is on.
Right, because Wisa County had one drawn up, but they have a countywide zoning ordinance.
and I know this county's not going to countywide zoning, and I understand that, I don't have a problem with that. So I don't know if we can do it or not. So,
It scared the hell out of you, what you paid or something like that, but they make some huge things.
So I don't know, I just wanted to mention it because it's gonna be, it has potential to be a factor in Des Moines County also, along with elsewhere.
That would be an issue, and that's something you would wanna talk about if somebody was gonna come in and damage the road.
Well,
I
we
mean,
brought,
they've already, I know firsthand, they're darn close to having probably approaching 300+ acres with a line on, with a signature already. But they have multiple years to figure it all out and decide, and they could walk away from it also, which is what happened. The wind thing came along about 10 to 15 years ago. There was a huge wind farm proposed for right up bordering my farm, actually. And they were going door to door. They actually signed agreements with landowners to a certain extent, and then they pulled the plug and walked away and just went away. This one could do the same thing. Just want to bring it up.
Okay.
we brought that up because, I mean, we were getting
Yeah.
phone calls
Yeah.
about the same thing. And so, I mean, we haven't done a ton of research, but, I mean, one of the challenges is that we have limited zoning in Des Moines County. From some of our conversation with, can't think of the gentleman's name, Eric Christensen, he's with Iowa State University, he does a lot of research in this area. I believe we had one example of a county that has a wind power ordinance that does not have countywide zoning. And I don't remember his direct opinion, but it was that he was uncertain though if they were to be challenged on it because it's separate from a zoning ordinance. If they were to be challenged in court, if it would hold up, he doesn't know. So there are counties that have done that, but nothing has ever been challenged in court. So that's the question is if, it's not even that somebody would challenge it, but if they did, we don't know what the result would be.
There was, and it was discussed, I don't remember where we discussed it, whether it was at ISAC or something like that, the meeting, and they were talking about the damage, like that, depending on where, one of those,
wind
producers, or something like that, how they can damage, and there was something, secondary roads. Do you remember talking about that? There was something.
Well, I've been in a lot of those conversations, so I don't know if I remember the same.
I don't remember, but there was some, they thought that
That was ISAC.
was it ISAC?
Yeah, I'm sure it was
I remember,
ISAC.
and
Yeah, it was ISAC.
Can't.
I
remember,
mean,
been several years
it's in their
ago.
best interest to work with the road department because most of the time, some of that equipment coming in, they need permits for oversized, overweight. Again, probably more wind than solar. A lot of the solar stuff is not quite the same scale. I mean, so they need some of that stuff, but where this one's at, for instance, the direct access, even though a portion of it's on a paved road, the direct access from a local quarry is 2 miles of gravel, past multiple houses and stuff like that, and where you think all the material, I mean, look at the rock, if you've driven by that one up there, look at the material that came out of quarry up to that one. They were hauling so much out of L&W quarry up to that one, people were asking, where in the world are these trucks going to? I mean, that's how much attention, that was in the middle of a DOT project.
Yep.
So that's how much material they hauled, so.
I know my son hauls cement division for WW. He's putting another wind farm over there in Illinois. And he said that they had certain roads they had to go on. He said, but my God, he said, we just tore them roads up.
That's the wind industry. There are horror story after horror story in the state of Iowa, and I think things are a little smoother now because people go back and talk to the people that have already dealt with it and try to learn from that. But I mean, they have to rebuild roads. When they bring those the crown is too much in the road, so they actually bring dozers in and flatten the road. They actually rebuild intersections because they can't make the turn,
Yep.
even with the steering axles on the back of, I mean, they actually destruct roads and then basically have, so to be able to do all that, they have to do some sort of an agreement because they don't have the right to do it without working with the county. But they do truly destroy the network they use.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said.
Yeah.
He said it's bad.
And then you're ruining those roads for all those people,
Yeah.
because it's not like you do it for a day. So, anyway, I wanna mention, I don't know what our options are, I don't know if we have options, it is something to think about.
Okay, I appreciate,
There have been some non-zoned counties that have pursued, the one Zach mentioned is unique because they actually have zoning as well, but they wanted to handle the wind issue separately. But again, this is all new, this is happening a lot because these types of projects are being proposed in areas where there is no zoning, so there isn't a whole lot of court precedent with regard to these types of ordinances, that's the issue.
That doesn't mean that they wouldn't be fine,
Right,
but it's just a
back
question if
to
you
our
were to
work
be
session.
challenged on it.
I think we're done.
Yeah, we're
with the,
past that. I wanted to
we're-
mention.
We're done with the zoning.
Yeah, sorry.
Resolution
Sorry.
that, we're gonna look at a new,
Yep.
new stamp
And
on
we'll work with
ordinance.
the county attorney's office to
Okay.
kind of review that.
You guys okay?
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I'd like to see
Thank you,
something. I'd like to see something else that we could do to protect our interest in our roads and that.